Hey guys, it's Gus, and here's my first Module 32 build, and I say first because it's undoubtedly going to go up whenever if I ever get these mythic weapons. But even if I don't get them, or I'm sorry, Celestial, even if I don't get them to Celestial, when we get the modification to our ratings, that ratings is going to be a huge boost to this build, and it's going to change a bunch of stuff. But for now, this is what I'm going to be using when I run the trial. But before I go on anything, let's go over stats before my campfire buff wears off. So the four buffs we're going to use is Flask of Potency, Squash Soup, Prime Rib, and Sunlord's Gift Elixir. Real big caveat to this build. I haven't been using a 5-man build. I've been using a 10-man build where I'm built around the buffs that you get in a 10-man group, which is, well, it's not half the dungeon. It's probably like a third of it. But in the first phase and third phase and second phase and most of the some of the maze, you're going to be in 5-man party. So if you're built around 10-man group, you're going to be missing a lot of buffs. I built around 10-man though because to me, when you make it all the way to what is that P4, where you have to fight both mini bosses, you don't want to wipe when you get that far. It's just painful. So the more damage you guys can do to get through that, the better. Because you can kind of cheese the first round. So even if there's no rush. So even if you die, you can lose your death stacks. But once you get to that phase, you pretty much, well, unless it's a good scenario, you gotta get through there and you gotta kill it fast. Because the longer you take, the more people are gonna die. But I'm gonna go with the 5-man because as groups are getting better, time is becoming the most important thing and how fast you can beat the dungeon. So if you can get to the first few phases faster, you're going to farm more efficiently. So I made a 5-man build. Uh, the 10-man build was doing very good with in the trial so far, but you do how you want to do unless your hoster asks otherwise. So I'm on the Shroomwood set. And there's a couple things I like about this set, but there's a couple things I don't like about this set. But real quick, let's go over the stats. This doesn't look impressive. There's a few things we're going to assume. We're going to assume both tanks are running pack tactics, and we're going to assume both healers are running Mystic Aura. That way, you're going to get 2,250 ratings for combat advantage, no matter what phase you're in, and you're also going to get 2,250 power and 2,250 accuracy, no matter what phase you're in. You're This build is also assuming that uh, the tanks or healers are running a 5% CA companion. And the last assumption is that the healers, you're going to get either a crit buff from the paladin or a crit buff from the other healer because they'd be running like the blue fire. And I'm also assuming we're going to get 2% power from Atrian. So let's go through these stats. So power's at 93. We're going to get 18% from the Raptor. We're going to get 5% from these boots right here. We're going to get 2.25% power from Runic. And no, that does not take me over cap. And we're also assuming 2% from Atrian, which puts us at 120.25. So this will be capped fairly quickly, very quickly after entering the dungeon. Accuracy is at 64.4. We're going to be getting 7% from this helmet. We're going to be getting 7.5% from the Shroomwood amulet. We're going to be getting 9% from perfect vision. And we're going to be getting 2.25% from mystic aura. So that will put us at 90.15. So we're just over, but we're not wasting that much. When you start getting to these, it gets harder and harder to balance when we got these really big numbers. So power's capped, accuracy's capped. CA is my only uncapped rating in here, assuming the assumptions we had earlier. So we're going to go in here at 88.8 combat advantage. We're going to get 10% CA from these pants. We're going to get 10.8% CA from this new enchantment. We're going to get 2.5% from the spider totem, which is not activated yet. So you can see I don't have that in my total. And then we're going to get 5% from whatever comp is in the group. And pack tactics will not give us the full 2,250 because it will put me over cap. So it's going to give me 2,181. Yep, I'm wasting 69 ratings right there. Sorry about that. And this will put us at 119.33. So about 0.6% will be under capped. I know some people like being fully capped. This build is not fully capped, so it may not be for you. Crit, we're at 65.8. We're going to get 7.5% from this chest. We're going to get 5% from the boots. We're going to get 9.1% from this ring. And we're going to get 3% from the group, whether the Blue Fire or the Paladin, which will put us at 90.4. And then crit severity is at 96.7. We're going to get 7.5% from the chest, 5% from the boots, and 10.8% from this enchantment, which will put us at exactly 120%. So we're not wasting any ratings. And if you were doing the math already and following along, you're going to see that we wasted zero point 0.7 stats and we're missing 0.67 stats. Well, the problem is we can't make up for it because we're over. If we could move those 0.7% ratings we're wasting into CA, it'd all be wasted. So I do have some wasted ratings. I had a lot more earlier. I've been working on this build since yesterday, and a lot of shuffling, a lot of moving pieces. As we go along in this module and we figure out, a new meta for the companion compositions, it's going to change the build. But this build will do very good in this trial. I have a detector build. It's higher item level, and it has some other things I like about it more. But the Shermwood, the recharge speed it's very sexy. A lot of people like it. So do I. A couple downsides. You notice with these gloves that give you 8% CA, or I'm sorry, accuracy. I'm not counting any accuracy from these gloves whatsoever because most of this dungeon you're going to have multiple enemies in combat. If you get the ice, I'm assuming this would work, but if you get fire, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, that those clones that come out of the fire boss count as entities, so you probably would lose your bonus there. In phase 2, you would lose all your bonus because all the mobs. Um, Definitely in phase 3 or phase 4, which is just super mob heavy, you would lose it as well. And in the maze. So I'm not counting any ratings from these gloves except the 4% CA. These gloves, I couldn't find a better pair of gloves that gave this much item level and this much constant ratings. That's why I used it. So there's the ratings. We're missing 0.67 rating stats total, 2/3 of 1%. 6.7. All right. So let's go over gear. I'm using the new helmet from the dungeon. This one drops in master, but the gears drop fairly quickly. So if you do get a couple master completes, you'll probably be able to get lucky and get this. I was passing on dust trying to get this. And it also gives a little boost to recharge, which is kind of nice. I have power reinforcement kit. This chest drops from Master Shackles of Divinity. It gives 7.5% crit and 7.5% crit severity. I have power on that as well. These gloves drop from MSOD as well. They're a lot bigger drop rate. I had to buy these with the currency. They give 4% CA. They do give accuracy, but I'm not counting the accuracy. And they're pretty high on level. I have the weapons at Mystic. You can get these to Mystic doing about 30 advanced shackles of divinity or soul harvester. I'm sorry, about 30 runs or so, maybe a little less. And these are really nice because so we're gonna inspect it. It's giving 100 base damage, and it's giving you a constant 7.5% crit strike and a constant 3.5% 3.7% accuracy, as well as a 4.5% base damage increase. You don't get that all the time, but it's up a lot of the time. And then also about these weapons, um, let's see, I have it has a modification of 10% damage to rapid strike, which is huge because we use that at will quite often. And then um, I'd mentioned the modification. I have 2.5% recharge on there. 2.5% AP is the other one you want to use, but I'm going to go with the recharge. And then the modification, I believe those ratings can go up to 6,600, but I don't believe I can roll for those yet. So I'm going to put, when I do get that, I'm probably going to put it all into power or possibly combat advantage, just those two only. Because those are the ratings I'm usually hurting the most on. But power normally, because you can't get power. Well, you can get some, but you can't get much power from your companion gears. These boots drop from Master's Shackles of Divinity as well. I have on the Night Flame sensor. It's a great DPS artifact. I have on. I wanted to go another 2600 item level. I just couldn't do it with the ratings. I needed the ratings, so I went with the Blood Brass pistol. I know this doesn't give as much as the dagger, but actually I could use these ratings better because I'm overcapped on accuracy, and I needed more crit 7 CA than I needed accuracy, so I went with the Blood Brass. You can use the Parchment. It does the same thing as the Crimson Calamity. And here I have the Arma Aegon. Still great. And that's 2600 on level. It does not give 2080 combined rating though. Though I could take this off and go back to the I could take this off and go back to the dagger that we got from the heroics in module 31. But I was able to make it work with these ratings. So yeah, 2600 item levels. At item level adds up. Uh, the Shroomwood amulet, they're getting cheaper and cheaper in the auction house. All of these have power reinforcement kits. All of the ring and neck belt have combat advantage. Um, yeah, this ring, it takes, guys, it takes like 65 seconds to get your 9.1% crit. So if you go in and do the artifact call, the first artifact call, you're going to be missing about 8 or 9% crit. Yep. It's a stinker. I think it's worth it though, because you're going to do a whole bunch of artifact calls throughout the dungeon. So you're just going to be missing out on the first artifact call. There is a mythic ring that gives 6 or 6.5%, but I need that extra 3%, so I went with this. Once we find a way to get the extra crit, I'll go to that one definitely because I think you get full charges in like 30 seconds. So this does take a while. I think if you die, you lose the stacks too. That's another downside. I have the damage ring on it today. I went with the Runebound Shackle. This gives the most ratings, and I was able to use them all. And you saw when we went over ratings, I had very, very few wasted ratings. Um, and then the shirt and pants, these are so good, guys. 10% damage in or I'm sorry, 7% damage in the trial, 2% CA bonus, and 10% CA. The problem is you have to do Master Shackles of Divinity in order to get these. The good news is they drop like candy. So after a couple runs, I know it's very, very hard to get in that trial, though, guys. I know. In Cobra Alliance, we have people hosting Alliance chat quite often. So if you're on PlayStation, you're looking for Alliance where you might be able to get in runs. All our guilds are recruiting right now. So there's the gears. I think I covered all of these. Yep, I'm a gift. And enchantments, I have 2 garnets and 2 opals. As you can see, power, 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 power. Yep. And then, of course, garnet. I could put all garnets here. I don't really care in my defense. The way my stats are right now, if I get hit by anything, I'm just dead. 18% awareness, 26% defense almost. Yeah, it's not going to matter. I'm using the new enchant. In groups, it gives the same amount of ratings as the lightning. Um, in solo, it does not. It's worse than lightning. And it takes longer to get your stacks up. Not very long, but it takes a little bit longer. The difference is it gives 1,000 more item level, and 1,000 item level is pretty significant. Is it worth the 80? Probably not. But I'm going in there trying to hit hard. I have Rage of Flames on, and I have on Sword Coast Tactician. But once I get the artifact modification for power, guess what I'm doing? I'm taking off this bad boy and putting on the Thay or the one in the campaign store that gives 5% um, damage procs in addition to 2% CA and damage mitigation. The problem is it costs 600 currency and it's bound, so you can't sell it. Rip. Movement speed. Yeah, that's definitely a no brainer for this build, and you'll see why in a second. Powers. I'm using focused. Um, Storm's recovery. Whenever you use a ranged encounter, it reduces the cooldowns of your other encounters. This lets us do the big fat arty calls. I do like swiftness of the fox. The fox. The problem is it does that 5% damage doesn't work on a lot of our damage sources. Ugh, I wish it did. If I found a rotation to use it, I would use it. I just haven't. A blade hurricane. Um, Storm conduit. PC has made a really good argument for using the Storm conduit. The faster your group is, the more powerful this is. I do like Blade Hurricane, especially in this trial. When we got the green balls, like when you're on green, this lets us do our. You're gonna be at a range stance, staying away from those green balls. So unless we can use our encounters on them, I'm too afraid to go in there and use our melee encounters on them. So I'm using my range encounters, which is only split this guy. Dolt, you're not using that on a green ball. And Thornward, you might, but basically it's be hindering shot to activate this and do your rapid shot and get double damage. Skirmish Gambit, uh, you could do to the wind if you could get 10% more crit severity, but if you notice my rating, it's not capped. I have room for about 4,000 more ratings. So if I can get 5% crit severity somewhere and 4,000 more ratings, I could take that off. Uh, which might happen when I get the weapons upgraded because it's going to be, I think it's a 5.1% stat increase when you get Celestials. So there's going to be a lot of new things we can do with our builds. And then the last one is Nature's Envoy. For the powers, our class features, we can finally use Seeker's Vengeance again. Whoop whoop! This is a big power, guys. You got to use it. Just know it doesn't work on some of our powers like Owlbear, um, Bloodlust, our mount power, Blade Storm. Whenever you do your melee powers, they have a 20% chance of doing 20% additional damage. This activates quite often because when we do our artifact call, I think we do 17 melee attacks, or is it 21? It's a lot. When you count all the at wills we do, our daily that counts as 4 hits, and our 9 encounters. So 9, yeah, 21 hits. So you have 20% chance of those 21 hits. So you're going to get about 4 hits are going to activate this during the artifact call. It's not a bad power. And I also like it when I'm on the mobs too, because it could hit all those mobs. So it's a nice power. Have Forest Ghost. I'm using. Thanks, Feats, for bringing this up. So when we're in the hallway, this power only would hit 4 enemies total, and you're trying to cheese the damage board, right? Seismic Shot might do a. If you can get in a big old chunk of mobs, this might do some really sexy damage. Powers, hindering shot, split the sky, throwing word, same old. And rapid shot and electric shot. Electric shot can, in your phase two and you're on your own with no healer and those mobs are going everywhere, this can shred mobs, especially when you have Blade Hurricane going with it. Boons, movement speed. If you die, you will want revive sickness on. It depends. I'll go in there hard charging, and when I die, I'll swap to that as soon as I can. I have on power, and I have on defense right there. Campaigns, nothing. We have 124 boon points. When you complete this campaign, you might be able to. I think we'll be able to have up to 128. So I don't know where I'm going to put my next 4 points in. It's getting pretty. I'll probably try to get it into uh, either this defensive one or this deathly rage. I don't know yet because this will top off any ratings you might be short. There's not a whole lot to pick. It's getting really slim. I have pretty much everything. You do want marathon runner guys, especially in the trial. Move speed will save your ass. If you notice, I only have one of these artifacts to give stamina regeneration. In my Spelljammer build, I have the two artifacts to give it. So you dash a lot because in this trial, especially when you're learning it, you'll dash out of a mechanic into another mechanic, and you'll dash again. You run out of stamina, you just rip. And when you can get stamina back a little bit faster, it can help. Uh, Boons, I already covered those. Companions, whatever companion your host tells you to do for this particular build. I have two Thayan sword knots and the Thayan talisman. I have on perfect vision here for the 9% accuracy. Batiri, Minsk, Neverwinter Night Raptor, and Golden Cat. Um, and then mounts, I have on Golden Touch. I still like this power, guys. There's Big Behan. There's the new grubby mount that's super cheap that does like 3,500 magnitude. I'm gonna test that in a video very soon. Um, but I like Golden Touch because it just casts so fast and it's so fluid. And you are losing some damage there. Big B's hand is great though. So you do you. I just prefer it, especially when the game's lagging. This mount, will stick by your side. I'm using Ferocity here, which is really nice about the build. Um, there is Providence, which I was using MSOD. I don't know what the uptime is on Providence compared to Ferocity, so I'm going with Ferocity until I find out otherwise. So here's the one downside. This is Mary's gonna kill me if he watches this. You notice I don't have Gladiator's Guile in here. Normally I wouldn't use Assassin's Covenant. I'd use Gladiator's Guile. But as you can see, you saw from the ratings, I am getting every single rating I can in here. I know I'm wasting about 700 ratings, but if I didn't waste those 700, I'd be short 3,300 ratings that the Assassin's Covenant is covering down on. And I know you're gonna say, well, take off these damn dominants. You're wasting ratings by using dominants. Well, yes, I tried not to use them, but I had to use them to get power. And then we don't have a lot of combination for insignias, so you got to work with what you got. So I got Assassin's Covenant, two skills, Dominance, Brutal, Executioners, which is Tranquility, Brutal, Dominance, Brutal, Brutal, Tacticians, Skill, Dominance, 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 uh, Mender's Covenant, Brutal, Dominance, Brutal, Brutal, and then Cavalry's Haste, Aggression, Skill, Aggression, Brutality. There's also a case to be said about the one that whenever you cast an artifact, you reduce your cooldowns. Um, because there's time in this trial where you might be able to do that. But Cavalry's Haste and Tacticians, they're a must for if you want to get the biggest rotation you can during the artifact calls, where you're going to do most of your damage. So I think I covered everything in the build. In my tool belt, spider totem, stone of health. I did try coming in here with the potion of rejuvenation. Yeah, that didn't help out much. When you're in the maze and you're getting poisoned and you get down to like 2% health, you want to use your stone of health that will get you right back up because the next tick will kill you. So, and then the owlbear figurine. I know a lot of you don't have it. If you don't have the owlbear figurine, the dragonfire might actually be really good in this because you can use the dragonfire twice a minute, and especially if there's a lot of mobs in there. Okay, I think I covered everything. If you have any questions, please comment below. Stay classy, Neverwinter. See you soon.